So today I have a fun guest, Kunal Seth with the Seth brothers, and we're going to be talking about negotiating with your own clients. So, Kunal, are you there, my friend? Hey,
I'm
there
here.
you are.
Welcome.
Russ,
I'm going to get out of you guys' way. Let you guys take it away. Kunal, all love, brother. I love the way you roll. See you soon. I can't wait to watch this segment.
all right, man. We'll be back in just a minute with you. Kunal, thanks for joining us. Now, Kunal is from my childhood town of Houston, Texas. He's in Sugarland area, but services all of Houston with the Seth brothers team. Kunal, you want to share a little bit about your team?
Absolutely, Brian. Thanks for having me on the call this morning. We're based out of Houston, Texas. I've been in the business for a little over a decade. But in a prior life, I moved to Houston 2003 to work for a accounting consulting company, which is Deloitte. Then I worked for oil and gas company. 2014, quit corporate America, partnered with my brother-in-law, who just happens to have the same last name as mine, Seth. And then we came around and said, let's make a team and call ourselves the Seth Brothers Real Estate Team instead of Seth Brother-in-laws. Over the years, we've had a lot of success, but we specialize in bringing on brand new rookie agents, training, coaching, mentoring them to be successful. But we specialize in selling new construction homes in the Houston market. Last 4 years, consistently every year, our team sells over $100 million in sales volume. We close over 300 units. But our strategy is to have leverage, but we're also very nimble. We pivot every year based on market conditions, based on the recent lawsuit, and we have strategic plan for long-term growth.
Yeah, and a little bit of a pre-show here. Kunal's going to come back on the lab and do an episode with working with builders and working with developers. And thank you very much for doing that with us. That's going to be an amazing segment. Today, though, I wanted to hit on the thing that you just talked about. And we've been talking a little bit about this, but I think there's so much more to be said because the new NAR settlement that took place on August 17th, the turnover, we were really focused on buyers and what that meant for the buy side of the business. But this has really impacted us on the listing side of the business as well. And I know you guys do substantial business on the list side of things. What are you seeing from your sellers in terms of their awareness, their misperceptions, and what they understand about what this means for them as sellers?
On the surface, there's information and misinformation. But the sellers are aware that based on the new lawsuit that's been passed, they have the ability to hold back the compensation that they were giving to buyer's agent in the past. So every time we have an engagement or conversation with a seller, the assumption is that, all right, I'm going to list with you, but I'm not going to be paying the other agency on the buyer agency side. And it's also an education process where, historically speaking, when we were listing homes or any agent lists homes, we negotiate our commission on the transaction, and we negotiate the commission that's going to be paid to the buyer agency side. You, Brian? Okay. In my perspective, it's a blessing now because all I have to do is convince the seller to work with my commission side, which is listing side, but make a business case where the other agency, the buyer agency, deserves to be compensated based on the offer terms. So step one is, while there's information, there's misinformation. Educating the seller and using this lawsuit to the advantage of the seller is critical. And that comes with consultation, sitting down, and educating them. So that's step one. Step two is, most realtors, when they're prospecting sellers to list their home, they almost become combative and they fight for the commission compensation with the buyer agency side. Well, I'm going to get three, but you know what? Why don't you agree to giving 1, 2, or 3% on the buyer agency side? Our strategy is that get what you deserve to get as a listing agent, but have an open dialogue with the seller that they're open to compensating, in this case, X% to the buyer agency side, if the offer terms are acceptable to the seller. And that allows the sellers to put the guard down that I'm not fighting or demanding compensation with the buyer agency side, but I'm going to align with financial goal of the seller. And if there is room to negotiate, room to compensate, then I fight that. But the mistake most agents are making today is they're going for the listing appointment while negotiating their commission, they're fighting for the compensation for the other side.
Yeah, when you and I were talking, you made a great point, and that is before, when you were going to go get that listing agreement signed, you had to have both conversations first, right? You had to have two separate negotiations with your seller about how much money was going to be coming out of the proceeds. Now you only really have to have one, and what you said was spot on. I think is get the listing agreement first, right? Negotiate for what you need in terms of your compensation first. Get the listing agreement, and then have that conversation. Yeah.
To give you an example, just a month back, we had a $500,000 listing in the Houston market. And the seller said, well, all I'm paying is 3% to the listing side. I said, absolutely, yes. That's all I'm talking about today. But would you be open to compensating the buyer agent if the offer term was acceptable to your financial goal? Yes, I'm okay with that. We'll deal with that. Fast forward 2 weeks into the listing, we got a very strong offer from a buyer agent. And he said, well, I would like to be compensated. We had some back and forth, back and forth. In the end, we're earning what we deserve to earn, and the buyer agent is getting full compensation. In fact, the only negotiation we did was on the terms of the repairs. So essentially, if I had fought early on to allow full compensation on buyer agency side, I may not have got the listing. So in the end, the seller's getting a great price, we're getting compensated, and the buyer agency is getting compensated. But it's also allowing us to create relationship, partnership with other brokerages, other agencies, we're bringing buyers to our listings. And that's creating a brand where when you work with the Seth Brothers team, they will do everything in their power to allow the other agent to get compensated what they deserve to get compensated. But you have to be bringing an acceptable offer term to the table for them to fight for you. So that's the attitude, that's the mindset we want to create in the market, that this agency or this listing agent will do everything in their power for me to get compensated when I bring a strong offer to the table.
Yeah, and I like what you say. It's as long as you can help the seller hit their goals, who cares what else, right? Who cares what else? And a seller may actually object to offering any sort of compensation on that. And if they do, what would you say to them about that?
So what I tell them is, I'll give you another example. In the last few weeks, we have a client, we had them buy a home. Now they want to sell. And the based on comps, we came up with a list price of $1.6 million. Again, same dialogue, same exchange. By the way, one data point, if I had prospected this seller 6 months back to list the home, guaranteed they would have negotiated on my commission portion. But going in now, I said, all right, seller, I need to get 3% to get this deal done. I said, Kunal, not a problem, signed off. Now, on the buyer agency side, we had some dialogue. I said, what if I can sell or bring a buyer to the table and we get $1,650,000? Would you be open to giving $50,000 compensation to the buyer agency side? He said, absolutely, yes, as long as I get numbers we agreed upon. So again, a strategy of piecemealing the things together. And currently the home is listed at $1,650,000. If you get an offer term acceptable to the seller and the buyer agency gets $50,000 in compensation, the seller has zero issues and we have zero issues. So the mechanics are the same, but how you present, how you build these building blocks is critical, because if you fight too hard for the buyer agent compensation early on, you may not even get the listing.
Yeah. And I should say too, for the folks at home, we're talking fictional or in your case, example numbers, not prescribing whatever commission you decide to charge and how you decide to charge a percentage versus 5B, whatever. That's up to you and your state and the laws that are allowed in your area. So speak with your broker if you're unsure about that. But, the thing that strikes me is you must be really good at doing a needs analysis, because you talk about kind of marrying up the goals of the seller with the outcomes, that's necessary to attract buyers and to get deals closed, right? But that first means you need to really understand what the goals of the seller truly are.
Absolutely, Bryon. So where I do a gap analysis, and when some client reaches out to us to potentially list their home for sale, I ask a lot of probing questions, or I train my listing team to ask those questions. Why are you selling? What's the driving reason? What's working? What's not working? Once I know the pain points, whether it's a transition for moving different part of Houston or it's downsizing, upsizing, I got to know the pain points. with the pain points, I paint a picture that if I can accomplish what you want to do, timeline wise, financial goals wise, or downsizing, upsizing, what would prevent you if I were to bring an offer to the table in these terms? So once I know the pain points and gaps that are needed from the seller, it's much easier. I also believe, Brian, that whether you are a listing agent or buyer's agent, we always are fighting or wanting higher compensation. And I truly believe that cost is only a concern when there's lack of value. As a
Mm.
listing agent, if you can demonstrate tremendous value in protecting the seller's financial interest, adding value by doing things that other listing agents are not doing, which may be, virtual staging of the home or physical staging of the home, aerial photography, videography of the home, creating a lifestyle video, creating a landing page for the listing, having an answering service that can call the number and get somebody to answer the phone 24/7, as simple as it sounds, in no matter what market I go in, Brian, there are these amazing signs outside the properties. You pick up the phone, call that number. It may take a few days before you get a call back. We've prescribed to answering service US based as 24/7 coverage. Get in front of any of our listings, you see the sign, and call them. When I go for listing appointment, I tell the seller, here are all the agents in the market. Do a test for me right now. Call these agents right now about one of the listings. And I can promise you, half of them won't even answer the phone. Take any of my listings, call that number, be a live person. So my strategy is when I overly demonstrate the value as a listing agent in that market, what I charge as commission, the partnership, those objectives are easily met in my favor.
Yeah. And, what's interesting is you and I were talking. I asked you, do you present net sheets to your seller? And you said yes. And you said you took it a step further than I think most agents would do. You actually show carrying costs of the seller on the net sheet. I'm curious, why do that?
Because at the end of the day, if my primary objective, Ryan, is to protect the seller's financial interest, I gotta bring every penny to the table that could
Yeah.
impact the bottom line of the seller. And in our market, we have taxes, insurance, mud tax, lit tax, homeowner association fees, insurance policies. These are all the variables. So I make an objective net sheet with based on offer terms, based on projected closing date. And I project for that. If we take a 30 extra days to close on your home, there are the potential additional expenses you'll have to take on. The biggest one being the carrying cost for taxes. So the seller needs to understand when we are negotiating terms with the buyer and they say, you know what, let's pass up on this offer and let's wait for the next best one. Absolutely, yes. But what's the opportunity cost or expense of that? Just giving that piece of information upfront makes it much easier when I'm negotiating certain terms. So while we have partnership with title companies, we get the net sheets. There are tools and applications out there, but I give them a tool they can play with and determine on their own closing pushback for 30 days, 45 days, or a week. What's the increased holding cost for them? Because when they get the full picture, then the trust or bond of Seth Brothers team or the listing agent has the best interest in mind, creates a transparent communication, which helps us get to the finish line.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too is it also helps you in this conversation on buyer concessions upfront, right? Understanding their carrying costs, because I think when we talk to sellers about pricing their home and concessions and things of that nature, we talk often in terms of days on market and percent list to sell. But what we don't also throw in there is the added cost, which to your point comes off their bottom line ultimately, right? Days on market is not just about the pain of waiting and not being able to go where you're going to go. There is a financial cost to that. So I think it's such a smart thing to add that in. Now, before I let you go, you have a book called The First Generation Mindset. And you and I were talking about this because ultimately what we're talking about here is negotiation skill. Can you talk just a little bit about your framework for negotiations before I let you go?
Absolutely. So the book that I wrote about a year back, which is on Amazon, is called First Generation Mindset. Through the book, I'm sharing my life's philosophy, which is I follow a 3-step process no matter what I do. Step 1 is vision. Step 2 is value. The last is ask, ASK. Most agents lead by their ask. Ask would be, hey, you want to sell your home? I want to be a realtor. You want to buy a home? Let me be a realtor. When you lead by your ask, the other party on the other side perceives you as doing something that benefits you. My life's vision and philosophy is people are goal driven, have an overarching vision in life. The second piece, which is value, is the most critical one. On an ongoing basis, you need to add value to your clients, customers, and to the market. And add value what they are seeking. When you add value and give them something of value which they want, not what you want, whatever you ask in life it gets fulfilled. So vision, value, ask. But most people focus on the ask more than the value. If you go double down on adding value to your clients, customers, and the market, whatever you want in life will get fulfilled.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to our conversation on builders and developers. But until then, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing from your hard-won wisdom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bryon. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
All right, my friend. Next time I'm in Houston, you and me are having tacos. Kunal, Seth, everybody, thank you so much. Russ, back to you.
All right, beautiful. Hey, by the way, if you're ever in Houston, go out and check the Seth building. That building has to be one of the coolest, nicest done buildings I've seen in a long time for shared workspace. So pop into Houston, say hi to Kunal. He's friendly to everybody.
Awesome. All right.
All right,
Thanks, Russ.